That's where this catch-all phrase, science says. Science doesn't say anything. People say things. And they may be right, they may be wrong, they may be convincing, they may be unconvincing. There are. Howdy folks, welcome to the channel Trickle Down Philosophy, where everything is the product of thought, whether it is theological, atheistic, scientific, philosophical, linguistic, whatever. It's all the product of thought. I'm looking at Tucker Carlson versus Bill Nye. I don't know what they're arguing about on this one. Tucker can be fairly acerbic, and I don't know what Bill Nye's position. I don't know if they're going to get into a theological debate or not. I don't pre-screen these things generally. If I do, I let you know. But this one I did not. So we're going to see what this one's about. Those of you who are new to the channel and wonder when I do theological topics and such, I'm agnostic, right? I'm a philosopher in a sense by training and by nature, but I understand the limits of human knowledge. At least I have my ideas on them, and there's certain things that we can't know. We can believe, whether it's in the scientific realm or the theological realm. People can have at it. But I like nice people. I like people, generally speaking, who are curious. I like people who are generally congenial. Like when I look at somebody like Carl Sagan, when he debated or discussed things, he was very measured, and he did not see evidence for God. And fair enough. He's allowed that, but he wasn't a jerk about it, you know? I could say, like, if you're going into the jerky category, you might find Hitchens. He's since passed, but he was much more acerbic and aggressive and in your face and on occasion name-calling. But, you know, mostly Christians came after him pretty hard too, and so you might develop a harder shell. I don't know. But let's find out what Tucker has. I don't know where Bill Nye comes down on the theology, if he's a believer in God or not, but maybe we're going to find out.
We're coming to you live from outside the U.S. Capitol building, where President Trump will address a joint session of Congress in fewer than 24 hours. You may hear construction noise behind us during the show. That's because there is construction going on. There always is in Washington, the richest city in America. We want to thank you for that, for sending your tax dollars here. It's built a pretty nice place. Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy is now aspiring to a new title, Bill Nye the Psychoanalyst Guy. During a Facebook Live event with Senator Bernie Sanders today, the mechanical engineer and TV personality said, skeptics of global warming suffer from the psychological delusion of cognitive dissonance.
A lot of people do, but I'm assuming that this was during Trump's first presidency, because Tucker, one, he looks younger here, and two, he's on Fox News, and I don't, did he get canned from Fox News or he left? I know that much, and he's doing his own thing now.
It's a slight bump up from last year when he was open to the idea of imprisoning skeptics, global warming, as war criminals. Is that the choice? Bellevue or Nuremberg? Bill Nye joins us now. Bill, it's great to see you. That doesn't sound like science to me, Bill Nye the Science Guy. That sounds like something very different.
So cognitive dissonance is not a delusion. It's a feature. It's human nature. So we in the science community are looking for an explanation why climate change deniers or extreme skeptics do not accept the overwhelming scientific evidence for climate change. And the most reasonable explanation is you have a worldview, and then you have evidence, and the evidence disagrees with your worldview, so you deny the evidence. And then along with that, you deny the authorities that are providing the evidence. Now, if you have a better hypothesis for why climate deniers deny the overwhelming scientific evidence, bring it on. It's not a delusion. It's just like the fox and the grapes.
Well,
he can't reach the grapes, so he says the grapes are no good.
Look, people do come to every debate with preconceptions, and you're right about that, of course. But the essence of science is extreme skepticism. We always ought to be asking ourselves, is my hypothesis true?
I'm a member of both skeptic organizations, Mr. Carlson, and this is climate change denial is denial. The evidence is overwhelming. Don't get me wrong. I love you as a person more than life itself, but the evidence for climate change is overwhelming. So we are looking for an explanation of why you guys are having so much trouble with it.
So slow down. Before the name calling begins, and before you try to end the conversation, let's start it by asking what exactly you mean. Now, I think most people are open to the idea that the climate is changing. It has always changed, by the way, as you know.
Right. I think I remember the debate very well back then, how people were framing it, and it's like whether or not mankind is causing it. And I think that's a little bit anthropocentric, where an anthropo-egotistical, that we are the cause of everything. the climate is changing drastic ways. You know, the biosphere in which we live, called planet Earth, it changes. It goes through these, I guess, vicissitudes where it gets a little warmer, then it gets colder, and then it gets warmer and colder. And that's where it gets in the political part of it with Tucker and Nye. There may be evidence for it, but some folks say, I don't want to acknowledge that evidence. Yes, or they'll say, yes, I acknowledge it's getting warmer, but we're not the cause of it. We shouldn't be getting rid of fossil fuels. And then we're in the political realm at that point. That's why it's happening. And I think they'll see this. I think they both know this, that that's a political issue. And that's why people will take what might otherwise be an irrational stance on it. Say, no, it's not getting warmer. It's not getting colder. It's everything's just fine, which was not true. It is getting warmer, right? But what's the cause of it? I think that's what people we're debating and probably still are.
Rate, Mr. Carlson. It's the rate that's such a concern.
The core question, from what I can tell, is why the change? Is it part of the endless cycle of climate change, or is human activity causing it? That seems to be the debate to me. And it seems an open question, not a settled question, to what degree human activity is causing that. Is that not an open question?
It's not an open question. It's a settled question. Human activity is causing climate change.
To what degree?
To a degree that it's a very serious problem in the next few decades.
But wait, stop. Wait, no, you said it's a settled point, and I'm asking a very precise question.
It's a settled point.
Then if you'll elucidate it for me, I'd be grateful. To what degree is climate change caused by human activity? Is 100% of climate change is caused by human activity?
I know, but I'm going to stop there too, because when Bill Nye says it's settled, the scientific community, X, Y, and Z, that to me is no different than theologians saying the Bible says this, therefore it's settled. It's like, no, okay, there's more nuance to the discussion. It isn't just, you can't just say the scientific community, because one, there is no such thing as you have individuals within the scientific community, some of whom agree with one another, but scientific theory changes over time, just like theological perspectives change over time. That's where this catch-all phrase, science says. Science doesn't say anything. People say things. And they may be right, they may be wrong, they may be convincing, they may be unconvincing. There are detractors. There were certainly within the scientific community people who said the globe is not warming as much as, it's being put out there in the media, for example. So that's where the skeptics may come in and say, look, I'm not buying all this stuff that's out there. I need more evidence for it. And in a sense, that's what Tucker's asking for here. And it's fair enough. You can't just say science says this. Well, what specifically is being said? How is it being measured? And so what is more specific evidence that you're citing other than this group of people say it, therefore it's true? That's like an appeal to authority or an appeal to the masses, and that in logical terms, it's just a fallacy.
Is it 74.3%? It's settled science. Please tell us to what degree human activity is responsible.
So the word degree is a word that you chose, but the speed that climate change is happening is caused by humans. Instead of happening on timescales of millions of years, or let's say 15,000 years, it's happening on the timescale of decades and now years. Now, I offered...
Fair enough.
Wait, but hold on. But
if it's true,
to what extent is human activity responsible for speeding that up? Please be more precise.
If that's the number you want. Humans are causing it to happen catastrophically fast.
Okay, so at what rate would it have changed without human activity? And you look annoyed that I'm asking these questions, but they're very basic questions. They're not denial.
So basically, the cycles of climate change, the last ice age we had was tens of thousands of years ago. So bear in mind that in ancient dinosaur days, there was more carbon dioxide. The world was warmer than it is now. There was an inland sea in what is now Wyoming. And I understand you have a member of Congress from Colorado, used to be underwater. And you go to Dinosaur National Monument, you can see it. Okay.
Yes.
But that's millions of years ago. The problem is
you just said it was tens of thousands.
That was the ice age. The rate.
Okay.
The rate is the problem. Now, here's the thing. Half the people in the world live on sea coasts. As we get the ocean a little bit warmer, the ocean's going to expand, and people live on the sea coast are going to be displaced.
But you're not answering my question.
About the speed
yes, you're describing what will happen if this continues. And I'm asking you a simple question. Hold on. I'm asking you a simple question about the rate of climate change.
So
you said that it would be happening, but that rate has accelerated because of human activity. And I'm asking
the
you
word
very
accelerated
simply,
is an understatement. Okay, it's happening extraordinarily
I'm asking you a simple
fast.
question, and because the science is settled, I hope you can answer it in simple terms, which is, without human activity, how long would it have taken for us to reach this level of warmth in our climate?
It's not clear that it would have happened. In other words, humans have changed the climate so drastically that we have almost certainly avoided another ice age. There would have been another ice age. Ain't going to happen because of you and me. So the sooner we get to work on this problem, the problem.
When would it have happened?
When would the next ice age have happened?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Without human activity, what would the process look? Here's the point that I hope our viewers can understand. I'm not in any way denying that the climate is changing. I'm utterly open to the possibility that the change is caused by man's activity.
Right.
I'm merely calling into question your claim that all of this is settled, that that we know precisely what is happening and why, and that anyone who asks pointed questions about it is a denier and ought to be imprisoned or shouted off the stage.
No, that was your word. That's you guys. That's not my claim, and I really.
Would you like me to read your quote that people who disagree with you ought to potentially go to jail? You said that.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, isn't skepticism
exactly what I
baked
said,
into
Mr. Carlson.
science?
We can talk about that shortly, but.
Is it appropriate to jail the guys from Enron? Was it appropriate to jail the people in the cigarette industry who promised it wasn't addictive, et cetera?
Okay.
Look, my only point is, shouldn't we be encouraging people to ask honest questions, which I am doing?
Was Bill Nye? I of course have seen him, but was only in the past, only tangentially aware of him as like the science guy. Is he sort of like a Ralph Nader type, sort of like on the fringe of stuff, and is just sort of out there almost as a proselytizer of a given thing? Seems to be reluctant in a sense, because Tucker is asking good questions. They're actually scientifically oriented, looking for the evidence for it and saying, I'll accept it. Can you just present it to me? Nye seems to be a bit agitated here. Maybe it's all the sirens in the background. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't seem to have the answers to those questions.
Okay, I got to disagree with you. I claim I do have the answers. Okay. So let me ask you this. Why aren't you concerned about it? Don't you have 4 children?
Yeah, Nye seems to be getting agitated and changing it. Why aren't you concerned about it? Tucker is. And I'm not a huge fan of Tucker. I don't dislike him. I don't know the guy. I'm just saying, as a matter of argumentation here, as a matter of discussion, Nye seems to be evading the questions Tucker's asking and even going after him a little bit personally. I don't know. Why aren't you concerned about it? It's like, well, he's asking questions. That's all he's doing.
Why aren't you concerned?
I am concerned. That's why I'm having you on. You don't reach correct conclusions in science or politics or any other field unless you can ask honest answers without being shouted down by people like you.
But I know what you mean. So
no, I do mean ask. I want to know what would happen without human activity. The climate change. No, it's a simple question. The climate is always changing. You've conceded that. You're saying that human activity has increased the speed.
Yeah.
Increases the speed of that change. And my point is, what would the climate look like right now without human activity?
At what point would it have warmed or cooled? Britain would not be very well suited to growing. Yes, Britain would not be very well suited to growing grapes as it is today. French winemakers would not be buying land to the north as they are now. People who plan to run ski resorts would still be able to do it in Europe. And so the climate change and the parasites.
You're using the language of politics. Look, you're not scientists, as you know. You're a popularizer.
I'm using the language of economics.
But so I'm just saying,
you asked what it would
to the
be
extent
like
that you prevent people,
if
you prevent people from having an honest conversation, you're doing a grave disservice to science. Don't you think that?
So you asked how long it would be before, what the climate would be like if humans weren't involved right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
So
at what point would it have changed? And I'm just saying, you don't actually know because it's unknowable.
So
why aren't you open
it takes you to interrupt me? Okay, it takes you quite a bit less than 6 seconds. So the climate would be like it was in 1750. And the economics would be that you could not grow wine-worthy grapes in Britain as you can today because the climate is changing. The use of pesticides in the Midwest would not be increasing because the parasites are showing up sooner or the pests are showing up sooner and hanging around longer.
That's the result of the climate warming, but it doesn't get at the cause of it. I mean, it's relevant information that Nye is presenting. You're like, okay, these are very real occurrences happening now, but it still doesn't get at the root yet. I mean, and it's amazing how people can't just discuss things. I don't know. That's one of the benefits I had in my philosophy classes, having majored in it. It's where you learn to just listen to contrary information. Because firstly, you learn that your own position may be wrong, because you're shown frequently that it's incomplete, especially as a freshman. You're shown that your ideas, as emphatically as you may state them, you've got to be able to put them out there, in a sense, dispassionately, and then subject yourself. First, look for the flaws in your own argument yourself, then ask somebody else to find the flaws in your own argument. You get very well accustomed and embrace open discussion about things, just so that you have better informed discussions and opinions or beliefs. And it's amazing how that's such a difficult thing when somebody's out just to prove a given thing. Nye seems to be out just to prove something, even though he has good things to say. Tucker is asking questions. I don't know why Nye has such a problem with Tucker. Maybe because Tucker's conservative, and I'm assuming Nye isn't. I am not sure.
I think that's probably all true, but you
would not be overwhelmed by pine bark beetles as it is, because of climate change. That's how
so
the
much
world
of
would
this
be
you
different
don't
if it
know.
weren't for humans.
You pretend that you know, but you don't know, and you bully people who ask you questions.
I really have to disagree with you. I spent a lot of time with this topic.
I'm open-minded. You are not, and we're out of time, unfortunately.
So,
thank you for joining us.
You guys are the mainstream media, and I can tell you why they're leaks. Because the president has created two factions in his administration. They don't like each other, so they leak. It's not from the outside, it's from the inside. Carry on, Mr. Carlson. I'm sure we will cross paths again.
That's a very ominous thing to say. I don't know what it means, but come back anytime.
Tucker likes to debate. I will say that. He embraces it. I like to discuss, not as much debate. It's not my style. I know some people who are very good on their feet with debating things, and I really much prefer a less passionate way of discussing various issues, because if something is relevant to the discussion, I want to hear it, Nye seems to be a bit contentious, defensive. He was here. I think this was during Trump 1.0. It's fascinating to revisit certain periods in time. I know back in the 70s or 80s, the scientific community itself was predicting an impending ice age. Temperatures were evidently cooling, and they were going to continue that slide very quickly, and it was due to mankind. And that's where there is a skepticism about certain so-called evidence. Or I think Al Gore was predicting within 10 years, New York City would be underwater or whatever. And I know these extreme claims cause some folks to say, I can't listen to any of this. Same thing with atheists, with theologians saying, Christ is coming back and here's the evidence, like Harold Camping, and predicted, and people were selling all their goods and they were preparing. And then the day came that Christ was supposed to come back and it didn't happen. And that people look and say, look, if you guys, this is what it leads to? Is this what the beginnings of your faith leads to? I want no part of any of it. And that's what happens in the opposite direction too. And it was case in point here, I think so. All right, guys, that's it. I like discussing and analyzing issues, and I didn't realize this would get into more political stuff. And maybe I'll go in that direction on the channel as well. I don't know. All right, have a great day. See you on another video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and keep thinking philosophically. In that vein, I'm looking at Tuckle? I'm looking at Tuckle.